So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. Guys, I hope you guys are keeping well. Hope you guys are staying safe. Hope everything's good at your end. So guys, there's some interesting news. Guys, oh yeah, I'll be doing a breakdown of the Shakur and Stevenson fight probably tomorrow. But Mr. Alvarez has made some interesting comments. Obviously, Canelo's fighting Bivol now, so there's some very interesting stuff that is going to be said, things that we agree with, things that we don't agree with. But Canelo Alvarez says nobody can beat me right now. I'm in my prime. This is going to rub a lot of people up the wrong way. You know who this is going to rub up the wrong way. Let's see if he can back up his words. So let's read out what he has to say. It's boxing, but nobody can beat me right now. Big words, big words. I feel I'm in my prime. And no disrespect to other fighters. There's some great fighters, but I feel I'm in my prime. I feel strong. I feel my best. We're always trying to do something new in the gym. We try not to do the same mistakes I do in my last fight, so we're always working on something. I don't come to the gym like, oh, I have to train because I have a big fight, Alvarez said. This is part of my life. These kind of fights, these kind of challenges make me motivate myself. These kind of fights, big fights like this, make me feel motivated. Maybe I have more motivation than 10 years ago. Even more, I want to still be on the level to be the best fighter. So maybe I'm more motivated now. And then he goes on to say, I hope for a long time because I'm going to miss boxing when I'm retired. Right now, 6 more years, 7, 5, I don't know. I love boxing, I love challenges, I love the adrenaline. I need to accomplish everything to be in the boxing history books. That's why I'm here, and I love what I do. When do you see the best fighter move up and down weight classes and beat all the champions? I don't think anyone. I try to do my best for boxing and for my legacy. Then he goes on to speak about Bivol. He says, he's a solid champion in 175, in 175 pounds. It's a dangerous fight. I like it. I love that kind of challenge, but I believe my skills and I'm also strong. So I'm confident that it will be a very good fight. So as you can see, Canelo Alvarez now talking a big talk here. Canelo Alvarez telling us that nobody can beat him. He's in his prime. Well, Canelo Alvarez right now, I've said this before, I did a video before, that he's in his prime where he feels he's unbeatable right now. He feels, you can't beat me. I'm Saul. You can't beat me. But these are big words. These are big words because we all know that in boxing's the hardest sport in the world. There's always a very hungry young challenger that's up and coming that could beat you. You know, Bivol's very hungry. He hasn't had the success that Canelo's had. He hasn't had the fame, the money, the fortune, the opportunities that Canelo's had. And that's because Canelo's great. That's why he gets those opportunities. He's great. But there's always going to be somebody, and this is why it's very hard to stay at the top in boxing, because there's always someone that's hungry, that's up and coming. But the reason what makes Canelo great is for the reasons that he had highlighted in the interview. Basically saying that I want to stay a champion. I want to be a champion. I want to be the best fighter. I'm motivated. I'm hungry. I've got the adrenaline. I'm more motivated than I was 10 years ago when he was probably not broke, but didn't have anywhere near the money. See, Canelo still fights, trains like he's broke. You see, that when people make a lot of money, for example, one of my fighters that I got into the sport for, Khan, when he made a lot of money and he was financially secure, he lost the hunger for the game and his career became more business orientated. There's many fighters like that. He was using his name, cashing out and making big money, but it wasn't really about legacy. He wasn't really that motivated, hence why he was going into the gym. He'd train for that particular fight. But in between fights, it wasn't like a full-time job for him. It was like he was, he had to do the, he came in, did the training for the camp and then left. That's okay when you're young, but Canelo doesn't live that life. Canelo's full-time in the gym. When, like, these type of guys, when they fight, they're so motivated that they're back in the gym 2 days later. It's incredible. Even though they recommend you to take a week or two off. Like Crawford, again, back in the gym after 2 days. And that's hunger, that's motivation, that's the desire, that's what the willingness and want to be at the top of the sport. Very few people, unfortunately, have that kind of desire. Hence why there's very few people that hit this kind of level. The reason why Canelo hits a high level, the reason why Canelo's so great is because Canelo's willing to put in the work. He's willing to go above and beyond. Most fighters that are below Canelo, they'll they're world champions. They'll go in, they'll have their fight, and then they'll go and start binge eating. They'll take a long time off. Then they'll come back in the gym. Like I saw Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor's an undisputed champion. Josh Taylor, I saw him after a fight, after was it Ramirez fight, and he got back in camp for the Quattro, and he looked fat. He looked out of shape. And I was like, whoa, this guy's been enjoying himself. But these type of fighters like Canelo, and look at it, his performance was terrible. I'm not saying that was the reason why his performance was terrible, because it could have just been Quattro was really good. But this is the difference. When do you ever see Canelo off his game? Very rarely. And generally, if he doesn't look that great, it's because the other guy's really good. But Canelo's always in shape. He's always giving his best. You never really see poor performances from Canelo. The Lara fight wasn't a poor performance. It was just that Lara was really good. Canelo's never put in a poor performance. It's always been a good performance. It's obviously, when you're in the ring with somebody who's also a top fighter, it's hard. Golovkin proved that. When he was in the ring with a top fighter, it was tough. But it doesn't matter how hard you train or how dedicated you are. If the other guys, Golovkin's dedicated as well. To be honest with you, I don't think Golovkin does much else than box. That's why he's still fighting till 41, because he's made enough money. People accuse Golovkin, but let's not forget, Golovkin's fought Canelo twice. He's got enough money to sit on his laurels now. Golovkin doesn't need to fight anymore. Golovkin's got plenty of dough. Plenty of dough. Believe you me, Golovkin could live a happy life. You think Golovkin needs to fight? Golovkin doesn't need to fight. Golovkin can easily sit back and enjoy his life. Golovkin's got plenty of dough. That man's loaded. But Golovkin as well, he's a fighting man. He just wants to fight. Some of these guys are dedicated and motivated. It's not even the fact that they're dedicated or motivated. It's the fact that it's their life. They don't know anything else. You see, most fighters, it's not like that for them. Like, boxing is just their job. To Canelo, it's not his job. Boxing is he needs it. He can't live without it. It's like that. And this is why he says, I'll miss it when it's gone. Unfortunately, very few people that get to the top, the ones that think like this are the ones that stay there and are able to maintain their status as the best. And that's why, by having this kind of mindset is what makes you great. But very few people, there's many talented fighters, right? Many great fighters that could have been far greater if they had this mentality. Zab Judah was one. Amir Khan was one. These are guys that could have achieved much greater and probably hit much higher levels if they had stayed dedicated, if they hadn't viewed their career as more business orientated, if they had lived a life like Canelo. There's been more naturally gifted fighters than Canelo. But Canelo will achieve more than them because Canelo is always evolving. Like he says, I'm always looking at something to work on, something to get better at. I look at what I was weak at and I look to get better at it. Because that's what great fighters do. That's what, not just great fighters, but in any field, that's what they do. They look to improve their weaknesses. And that's what Canelo Alvarez is doing. Canelo Alvarez is great for a reason. And for me, I can understand this motivation, this dedication to this craft. But Canelo is right now. You know, it looks hard. The way Canelo's performing, it looks hard for somebody to beat him. And if you imagine if Canelo puts in a great performance against Bivol, people are going to say he's a monster. People are going to say he's unbeatable. If he beats Bivol in emphatic fashion like he did with Plant, people are going to say this guy's unbeatable. And this has all come down. Canelo is a man-made product. Canelo wasn't that good when he was obviously good. But what I mean is Canelo was nowhere near this kind of level. He wasn't as naturally gifted as a Crawford, or he wasn't as naturally gifted as a Mayweather. But Canelo Alvarez has now put himself at such a high level. And the reason why he's done that is because of the hard work, the dedication. And now he's considered the most fighter. Like, for me, if you look at skill set and talent and ability, you'd say Lomachenko is so much more skilled than everyone. That guy's ridiculous, you know, the way he can move in and out, his athleticism, his movement. But Canelo Alvarez is a very versatile, complete fighter. He's a pressure fighter. He can box with you from the center of the ring. You know, he's a great counter puncher. He's complete. He's a great power puncher. You know, he's got great fast hands, you know, and he's improved his foot speed in the sense his feet are not for the fastest, but he's become more educated. And this is what I'm saying. This has all come through hard work and dedication and training, you know, constantly. You know, this isn't something like you always see Canelo when he's on the bag. He's always trying to work on something. It's not just he's hitting the bag for the sake of hitting it, like Chris Eubank, for example. Chris Eubank just hits the bag for the sake of hitting the bag for Instagram reels and stories. Canelo doesn't do it like that. Canelo, there's a method behind the madness. You know, he's not there to showing off to the cameras. Everything's got a method. Everything's well planned. There's a reason why he's doing what he's doing. And you look at some of the stuff he trains in the gym, he does it in the fights. Practice makes perfect. And hence why Canelo Alvarez, for me, is a man-made. Canelo Alvarez, for me, is like a Cristiano Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean? Canelo is a Cristiano Ronaldo where he's worked his socks off. He isn't a lineal Messi, a guy that just had it. A guy that at 19 years of age was the best. You know, Canelo Alvarez is a Cristiano Ronaldo. He had to work his socks off to get where he's at today. And that's why I respect this guy. And then the dedication and hunger. Like, yeah, I know there's question marks. People say about the PDs or whatever. There's question marks. But regardless, this man's work ethic, he trains like he's broke. Same with Mayweather. Mayweather trained like he was broke. That's why these guys had such successful careers. I know some of you guys don't like Mayweather and this, that. No. Mayweather was dedicated. Mayweather trained like an athlete should. It's sad that a lot of athletes don't have this kind of approach. But it's very hard. When you make a lot of money, it's very hard to stay motivated, guys. And this is why that in itself deserves a round of applause. Because many fighters, as Marvin Hagler said, it's very hard to get out of, you know, you get out for your early morning runs when you're wearing silk pajamas. Or you got, you know, your silk sheets or whatever you want to say. Silk sheets, silk pajamas, whatever. It's very hard. Because money, once you got a lot of money in this type of sport, it's very difficult to stay motivated, stay hungry. It's a very tough sport, this is. Very tough sport. This is a very difficult sport. Sport where you could get damaged, hurt, concussed, you know, brain damaged, left with memory loss, all sorts of things. I'll never forget after when Khan fought Maidana, you know, he said, about 2-3 years later, he was given an interview and he said, I had memory loss after the fight. I didn't know, I can't remember what happened that night. I can't remember what happened. You know, that memory has been erased. I can't remember what happened then. My memory has been completely erased from that. And it sounds crazy. Like, to us, that sounds abnormal because we're not used to being in fights and brutality and being hurt like that. You know, yeah, some people may have had accidents and stuff, but in terms of being in a ring, imagine that you were in such a bad way that you had memory loss. You forgot what happened. When you woke up the next day, you didn't know you were in a fight. This is what some fighters have to go through. This is what Amir Khan actually said. And this is what fighters have to actually go through. That's why to stay motivated and dedicated in this type of sport is very difficult, man. Very difficult. It's almost impossible. This is why what Canelo's doing, you got to respect. Because this is a very, very tough sport. This is the toughest sport of them all. There isn't a sport tougher than this. This isn't like kicking a ball around or playing cricket or doing rugby. You know, this is the toughest of toughest. Probably the other sport that you could say maybe American football. I'm not American I don't really follow American sports like that, basketball, American football. But that's probably another sport where, you know, there's a lot of trauma, and UFC is another sport. But this is a very difficult sport, very dangerous sport. It's a sport which is not just training for it is very difficult, but actually the fight itself can be very brutal. The event itself can be very brutal. The training is brutal, but the event itself can be even more brutal, and which makes this sport very tough, damaging, you know. And that's why they say get rich, get in, get rich, get out. That's what they say about this sport. And it's true. That's what you need to do, because this is a brutal sport, man. Brutal sport where you could get damaged. So yeah, respect to Canelo. Do I think anybody can beat Canelo? We'll have to wait and see. You know, that's big talk. Normally Canelo doesn't talk like this, but he's talking with confidence. He's talking the fact that he knows he's putting in the work in the gym. So he knows that he believes in himself. He believes that he's unbeatable right now. He believes he's the man right now. So, like I said, and when someone's putting in the work that he is, respect to him. He deserves everything he gets. You know, the money, the paydays, everything, the recognition, the respect, the fame. He deserves it all right now because he's putting in that work. But leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.